A very warm welcome to the show. This is EI Cafe with Azim Season 6, and I'm your host, Azim Sahid, a human capital specialist, a legacy display facilitator, ICF certified coach, an emotional intelligence and emotional culture deck practitioner. Here we are again for another exciting and interesting topic, a 30 minutes of valuable learning. In today's topic or episode, we are going to talk about raising awareness of unconscious bias and what's the impact on the workplace. So I met this young lady through the network of mine, and we had an initial conversation, and she has been on the go from that particular day. I've seen doing fantastic job on this particular topic. Very recently, she in the red dot, of course, she's a telespeaker and a diversity trainer who co-wrote the regional report on gender in tourism in Asia and Pacific for United Nations World Tourism Organization. Using training as her tool, she has been actively working with business in equipping individuals with inclusive skills and competencies. She's a sought after speaker and has been invited at multiple international conferences, including UNWTO Regional Conference on the empowerment of women in tourism in Asia and the Pacific. Share her own contribute to the future. She had trained women across several industries to build their way forward through her critical conversation program. Using both virtual and real-life training system, she is preparing workplace to be mindful of fun. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome Prachi Thakur, diversity trainer, strategist, and researcher. Prachi, welcome to the cafe.
Thank you so much, Azim. Thank you so much for having me here.
How are you doing?
I am very good. Thank you. It's the monsoon is setting in India right now, and I'm enjoying it after very, very bad heat. So things are pretty good. How are you?
Fantastic. Good to hear that. Everything comes in a very good time, so enjoy the moment. So, Prachi, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and spending a valuable time in the cafe to talk about a very important topic, timely topic. A lot of things are happening around the world. A lot of awareness being picked up in terms of unconscious biasness, about diversity, inclusion. So that's why I really want to talk about. I see you are doing a fantastic job. And a lot of things are happening around you. So I thought of grab some information insight from you. So that's the whole idea of having this conversation.
Thank you so much, Edwin. Thank you so much. You are kind with your words.
Right. So Prachi, you heard we are going to talk about rising awareness of unconscious bias, right? And it has a big impact these days in the workplace, especially whole spectrum change landscape of the way we work. Right. Now, my first question is, why is bias is repellent for everyone at workplace, and how do we dismantle the whole concept? What is your thought? Let's start from there.
Thank you so much, Azim. Thank you for the question. So first of all, I want to tell you that bias is actually a word which people repel a lot, because we have this idea of being perfect. You will see different conversations happening at the workplace where people, and even on LinkedIn, where I'm kind of most active at. So you will see people talking about why the idea of failure is okay, why failing is okay, and all those things. Because in the workplace, especially, we portray this, we reduce the humanness of a person, and we expect our employees, our workplace members, to be perfect. You do not have a window to make an error. You do not have a window to make a mistake. So that is why, when we talk about bias, and when if I tell you that, Azim, you might be biased, your first instance will be that, okay, but having a bias means I'm a horrible person. So we are trained to look at people with a black and white lens. So you are either a very good person, like Azim is the most awesome human being who has ever existed on the planet, or you straight go to black. That, okay, yes, Azim is like the most horrible person who has ever existed on the planet. There is no in between. But the reality of the situation is that most of us lie somewhere in between. So that is why I think, bias is a repellent word. People don't really like to associate themselves with being biased. But the reality is that as I previously mentioned, that we all fall somewhere on the black and white spectrum, somewhere in the gray area. We all have bias, no exception. I mean, I can say about myself very confidently, I have been doing research in this topic for some time. I have read a ton of literature. I know a ton of things, and I'm still in the process of learning a ton of things, but I dare not say that I'm not biased. We all are biased. We all are, without any exception. So I think dismantling the idea that bias is a bad thing, it is a negative thing, but having bias doesn't make anyone horrible. We can always, as long as we are aware of the biases we are, or as long as we are taking steps very consciously about the bias that might exist, we are good to go. But I think that is one step that we should all take in having more conversation around biases and being aware of it, to effectively dismantle the idea of bias is equal to us being a horrible person. So,
Fantastic. Prachi, I hear a couple of things. One, I heard that you're talking about psychological safety. Don't be fear of failure. You can do anything you want, giving that space. Number two, I hear that you talked about, yes, we might say we are not biased, but unintentionally we might get. So I'm going to bring the word of unconscious, right? Unconscious in terms of bias. Now, what is the impact of an unconscious bias at workplace? Now, you said the manager might be not thinking that he's biased, but automatically, without him knowing, you might get biased. That's possible because we are human beings. So how do you tackle this particular element? What is the impact you see in kind of unconscious bias at workplace?
That's a fantastic question. And I like to, since you mentioned in my introduction that I gave a TEDx talk, and I'd like to, bring the effect from there. So even in my TEDx talk, I mentioned about the impact that unconscious bias had on me personally. So for people who haven't heard my TEDx talk, I have tattoos. And this one evening, I was standing at, that wasn't my workplace, but that was someone else's workplace. So I was standing at a hotel lobby, and the person who was working there at the hotel reception decided to remark on me based on my tattoos that I was a sex worker. Now, this wasn't a thought after comment. This wasn't he must not have analyzed it very well and all those things. This might have, I dare not use the word might, this must have come from his unconscious bias, where he relates tattoos with a sex worker, or tattoos, which is not normal for a girl, right? So that is why he decided to comment on me that, okay, yeah, you look like a sex worker and you won't come back at night. So even in my TED talk, I talk about this thing that when I heard that, I felt in the moment, I felt like, oh my God, I just shouldn't exist on this planet. I should just be dead, or maybe I shouldn't have gotten the tattoos, and so many other negative things. So this was just one example where, the unconscious bias of a person had so much psychological impact on me. Imagine doing that on a workplace. So imagine right now there is a movement going on LinkedIn where it is called #InkDin, which is talking about people who are tattooed and how their perception of professionalism is being hampered. So now these are all unconscious bias working at the workplace, where you decide to judge someone based on how they are looking or how they are sounding. For example, I'll give you another example from my own training session. So this one time I'm walking into a room where I know that people who are sitting in the room for getting trained are elder than me. So I don't really consider that a big factor, but I need to be prepared because, I'm from a collectivist society and ageism is a thing with us. We automatically associate age with maturity or age with knowledge. So that itself is a diversity element, and that itself, the unconscious bias kicks in. So I walk in this room, and this person who hired me, ironically, who paid for my accommodation, travel, and everything without knowing how old I am, let's say, is like introducing me, and a very clear voice comes out and says that, oh, now she is going to teach us how to handle our business. So that again wasn't the thought after
Yeah.
comment. So unconscious bias shows up like this when you're judging someone without taking a moment to understand the value they have to bring on the table. And it can be very, very detrimental in terms of, the psychological impact it has on people. People, for example, if I, talk from research, the unconscious bias can lead to, lack of self-confidence, especially when it comes to women. The comments like, oh, you're smarter for a woman, or oh my god, you don't dress like women, oh my god, you're not into makeup like other women are. So these are all comments which sound like compliment, but are serious unconscious bias statements where we are comparing one woman with another and comparing one woman with our own idea of how a competent woman looks like, which is all very negative. It can hamper people's productivity. For example, if I, show up and tell you, oh, you're working in Ramadan, why shouldn't I? I mean, it will have an impact on, you will make me feel that if I'm working in Ramadan, maybe it is wrong, because I obviously cannot question you. So it does have impact on several aspects of how people show up at work. So yeah,
I think you touch a very important point. Two words I picked up from your conversation. One is feel, and the other is productivity. I always believe these come by hand in hand, because the way you feel, your emotions, your feelings always result in your behaviors, and behavior will result in your whole performance and the productivity. That's the equation I always believe and I always follow, because as you rightly said, if you start comparing and criticizing people for whom they are and not accepting in your workplace, and it's going to be a big damage. I totally agree with that, Prachi. Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that particular part. Now, here's a question I'm going to ask you. You are a diversity trainer, right? And I like the fact, the example you brought in, and I went through the same process in some time back. People wanted to have me for a C-suite strategy session, but they say, I think you seem pretty young, so they don't want to have you because they might feel, yeah, that's okay. I'm good. That's okay. You pick someone else. So that will be there. So in terms of talking about this diversity, you have done some extensive research. What you said, you have read a lot of literature, the readings and writings. So how does this diversity training work in challenging unconscious biases? But how does it work?
Thank you so much for that question, Shahid. Definitely, one thing is that diversity training has different aspects. And when we talk about training, since you're also a trainer, you know that there are different modes in which we indulge people for training. Yeah. So sometimes it is like our common friend one, uses curiosity, uses creativity in training. You use Lego in training. One of the things I use is about the activity of privilege. So what I do in training is that, I'll give you activity, what I do in my training, and that will lead this to how diversity training helps in identifying unconscious bias. So in one of my trainings, what happens that participants are given 15 cards. So there is a deck of 15 cards, and all of those cards have one privilege written on it. Now, people don't know whether they are privileges, but I tell them that, okay, these are the statements. I don't use privilege word again, because like bias, privilege is one word people usually, want to stay off from.
And get biased also after that.
Oh, yes. Ironically, yes. So I don't use the word privilege, and I tell them that, okay, these are 15 statements, and you can associate with some of these statements, but then I go on to introduce that. For example, one of the most common statements I have is, I have dress in my pocket. So that is a very common statement. But another is, I can marry a person I want. Third is like, I have the freedom to marry whomever I want. So these are some of the statements which are very common statements. And they are said, the participants are said to trade 2 statements in exchange of 2. So for example, I'm again taking this from the training session, that women often take the statement of, I have pockets in my dress. So that is one statement they want to trade everything for, because this is again, very small thing. You will not even notice that most women, the dresses they have don't have pockets in them. And it's not like we don't carry things, but if you notice, all the dresses have dysfunctional pockets. Like they can't even hold a smartphone and a set of keys. You see standard tailored pants of women, they don't have functional pockets. Why? I have no idea. So if you notice, this is a very small thing. But what happens when I give this deck of cards to people? It helps them take a flash. Oh my God, I didn't know it was real. It was this small. I didn't even notice. And this is how it helps them think that, you know what, unconscious bias isn't a very huge, big thing that will show up and like damage your organization in one day. This is how people understand that unconscious bias might be showing up in a very, very small thing. Maybe we have been doing that for ages now, but that's how diversity training helps take them, like a step back and see what are other things that are there in the workplace and we never noticed. So this is the privileged training exercise is one of the ways diversity training helps in, raising awareness of the unconscious bias we might have. Another is the discussion of pronouns. So one of the other things, again, it is very much about gender identity and sexuality and other things. But in different forms and styles, diversity training, I believe, gives an opportunity to do two things. First, reflect on our own practices and notice whether any of the practices we have are biased. For example, if I'm seeing a person wearing a sari, am I instinctively calling them ma'am or lady without first taking up, a stance that they might not identify as a woman? Second thing, first was reflection. Second is, what was the second point? I'm sorry, I forgot.
That's okay.
Yeah. Second is it helps them strategize that, okay, if I have a bias, what are the potential things I can do? It raises curiosity. So first thing is awareness, that it raises, awareness of taking a reflection, taking a moment to identify whether something is biased. Second is it helps them strategize on how can I not do that, or how can I challenge my unconscious bias. So these are two ways where actively diversity training helps people to, manage their unconscious bias.
And these are very simple. Now you raise my awareness, like why they don't have pockets. Now
Yes.
you left my curiosity. Now I'm going to search about it. I'm going to ask, especially the personal branding people, right? Those who dress, we should ask them. I have two wonderful connections. Let me ask, and I'll come back to you, Prachi, on that, because it's a really important thing, like why they don't have pockets on their pants. Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you very much for raising so much of information. Now you said about awareness. Now, since a lot of people aren't aware, what are common pitfalls while executing this diversity training, and how we can become, a barrier in creating inclusion workplace? Now, this is quite important because all the organization, I don't know, I see a lot of social media, especially on LinkedIn, people are talking about diversity, inclusion. We are an inclusive workplace, we are a diverse workplace. But what is this particular barrier which is going to create? How do you, go through these pitfalls? What do you think?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And I'm so happy for, that you took the question, because a few days ago, I made a post on LinkedIn about how people think diversity training works. So even in my TEDx talk, I talk about the same thing, that people expect this diversity training to be the magic wand of Harry Potter. They're like, oh, abracadabra, and it's like magic is done. You are all inclusive. So it doesn't really work that way. Yeah. So the first thing is, as you mentioned, that people aren't aware of how diversity training works, or the first thing which I want to share, and where people fail, obviously the first step is the place where people fail the most, is not having proper investment. And why I say proper investment, and what do I mean by that? Again, we often, when we use the word investment, we often think about the money. It's not always about the money. It is about the money, but money is just a component of it. First is the human resources you're talking about. If, for example, if I'm an organization, I'm organizing a diversity training session, and I keep it on a Saturday, that's a bad investment. you need to give a window to people to be voluntarily acting on things they are talking about. So human resources is first thing, that you give them window that, okay, you know what, we have a diversity training. You are dedicating time from their working hours to help them learn something. You don't keep it on a Sunday and a Saturday or a holiday and then expect them to join in. Oh, our people are on holiday right now, we'll organize diversity training and then we are doing good. I mean, we are doing it's on people if they're not joining. So that's not working. That's definitely not working. So that is on the human resources investment, that we need to be very conscious of how we are, presenting it with people. Second is obviously financial, that if you are going to, hire a diversity trainer and you are like paying them 2,000 Indian rupees, they are going to deliver you the value of 2,000 Indian rupees. And now, first of all, it is derogatory to, ask people to do it for free, which most of the people expect us to do. But second, if you're investing in diversity trainer, so again, the financial thing comes up, that people are like, okay, you come in, you deliver a session, one session, and that's it. That's again a poor investment.
Just to tick the box, right? Sure. We are done with it.
Yes, we are done. I mean, we did it. So that kind of thing. So it is dangerous. So having poor investment, so these are two aspects which I covered, human resources investment and financial investment. If you don't do proper investment, as in if you don't help your employees manage their time and then indulge in diversity training, or if you, hire a trainer and give them one session, done and dusted kind of session, it is going to backfire like no tomorrow. A lot of research is present which talks about how diversity training can be a double-edged sword if not used. And most of them also talk about that how poorly structured diversity training has the most negative impact on the workplace. Because people start, for example, let's say, I'll give you another short story here. I come in the organization and I tell you, Azim, you know what? I'm going to give you a gender diversity training and tell you how to be more mindful around women. I don't tell you why we are doing it. I don't tell you what problems we faced in our organization, and that's why we are going to remediate. I don't tell you what we are planning to achieve with this diversity training. You know what you're going to think? You're going to think that, oh my God, my organization thinks that I am biased. They are not going to take it as a, upskilling thing. They are going to take it as backlash. Oh my God, my organization thinks I'm biased. Oh my God. That's what happens when you do a poor investment in diversity training. So that's one thing.
And Prachi, can I stop you there? Like, let's imagine something happens like that. Like they feel like, okay, they, we are being cornered. We have been really, not. What would be the impact after that on the productivity? How the relationship is going to be?
The relationship is going to be exactly opposite of what you intended. For example, I and you work together in an organization. Our manager decided to bring in a trainer and train you for inclusion. That, okay, you know what, Azim, you need to be really inclusive of women at workplace. You know what you'll start doing after that? You'll start cornering me. You'll start making snarky comments. There are ample research and discussion which says that after poorly structured diversity training, people demonstrated more biased behavior. For example, you'll start clubbing with other boys that, they got gender diversity, they got training for us, as if we don't know how to behave. You'll start behaving, you'll start making snarky comments. You'll start saying that I am privileged, that, oh my God, you got a training dedicated for you. Are you feeling more comfortable at work now? These are very common statements that pop up after gender diversity training, if not framed properly. And let's not talk about productivity, because obviously you'll start, harboring negative sentiments for your organization, because emotional connect with organization is very, very important when we talk about productivity. The moment I'm thinking that, oh my God, my organization thinks that I'm biased, my organization has negative judgment of me, my organization doesn't trust me with my attitude, that's there. You are done. You are simply done. You Disconnected with your organization there. So obviously productivity will go down.
Fantastic. Really, 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 really important points over there. I think it's not just about investing on diversity training or inclusive training, whatever it is. There are much more. It's not just organizing, just bringing the down trainer. I think there is a prerequisite. You need to follow before the training certain things. And, there are things which you need. This is what I understood. I think our audience got the same thing, right? So, Prachi, I think we are coming a little bit of an end of our conversation. It has been really quite interesting. Here's my last question for you, because I want to my audience will take away certain things from you. So, what are some tips you can give our audience to bring this awareness about diversity, inclusion, equity in the workplace? What do you think?
Thank you so much for that question. And I have 3 quick tips for anyone. You're a manager, you're an employee, you just joined, you have been working for 50 years, you're in hospitality and tourism, you're in corporate, you're not in corporate, you're solopreneur, whatever you are, whoever you are, wherever you are. These 3 tips are going to work for you like magic. Again, I am daring to use the word magic, but yes, it will. First, don't expect yourself to be perfect. Even if you attended diversity training, you have been learning about it for so long, do not expect perfection from yourself. But yes, do expect humility. If you commit a mistake, be very open about it and talk to people that, okay, you know what, I pronounced your name wrong, I'm sorry, I forgot that you don't use this pronoun, or something like that. Don't expect perfection from yourself. That's first thing, that okay, you be ready to make mistakes. Second, take a pause. I'm a very, very big advocate of taking a pause. And this is one strategy I recommend everyone, everywhere, that before you say something out loud, take a pause and reflect why you are saying it. Is it productive? Do you want to help someone? Is it a compliment, or you think it is a compliment? For example, someone told me that, when I cut my hair short, when I trimmed my hair short, they told me, oh my God, long hair look better on you. And I'm like, thank you. So yes, that was a comment. That was a good comment. I took a moment and I digested it. Second is that second person showed up to me and said, oh my God, you got a boy cut hair. And I'm like, oh my God, no, that wasn't a compliment. And maybe if that person would have taken a pause and reflected that wasn't a comment, that wasn't a compliment, they would themselves realize that, okay, you know what, I'm bullshitting. I'm probably bullshitting. I shouldn't be saying that. So that is the second strategy I recommend to people after the first, that, okay, be ready to make mistakes. Don't expect perfection. Second is take a pause. And third is be curious, not predictive. If you look at a person and they are wearing sari, high heels and everything, don't be predictive that they are
don't judge. Don't judge.
Yes, don't judge. Be curious. Ask them, okay, hi, how can I help you? Or hi, what pronouns do you prefer? Or hi, can I use this pronoun? Or be curious. Everyone today is ready to tell you about themselves. It's not that people are going to be fiery. Oh my God, how dare you ask me my pronouns? No one is going to do that. People will help you know about themselves. But yes, you meet a person, you're like, hello, sir, how are you? How do you know that they use that pronoun? They don't. They might not.
Yeah.
So yes, let's be curious about people rather than being predictive about them.
Correct.
So these are my 3 tips for people that take a pause. And no, the 3 tips are: be curious. I am messing up the order. The 3 tips are: be aware that, okay, yes, be aware, be ready to make mistakes. Second is take a pause and reflect on what you're going to say. And third is be curious rather than being
fantastic. I hear a lot of self-awareness coming here, right? Think, pause, think what you want to talk, and be curious what makes, so it's really important that you're really connected to my perfect area also, emotional intelligence. I think that's why I always advocate in terms of emotional intelligence, why it's important to have as a basic need, basic skill, because these are all connecting to the topic what we're talking about. When we are aware about the other person, that unconscious biasness will always go out, and it can create a huge impact, because the organization are now talking about relationship, collaboration, teamwork, right? And compassion, empathy. So everything it's about a human, and why we have to differentiate and separate ourselves, like women, men, short hair, long hair, it doesn't mean, as far as we are as a human being, we are connected with emotion. It's about how we get together and drive towards our common objective. So that's my key takeaway, Prachi, today. So that's the time that we have, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a wonderful conversation. I know this conversation is 30 minutes is not enough. It's a huge. What we want to bring that awareness. So you can get connected to Prachi through her social media network. She's very active on LinkedIn. I advise you guys to please go and check her YouTube channel, the TED Talk. So I'm going to put everything on the podcast note, so you can just click and it will get diverted. And at the same time, you can log on to the website www.worldwomantourism.com to check what are some of her works, what she does. And I think plenty of research is available, and she's doing a fantastic job. So Prachi, thank you very much for your valuable time spending with me to talk this important topic, and together inspiring people to bring awareness about this unconscious bias, because we are human beings. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Azim. I really hope people take some takeaways and connect with me on LinkedIn. See you
Definitely.
around.